Hi, my name is Rama, and my son Timothy has cerebral palsy, epilepsy, ADHD, and ODD. Timmy faces a lot of challenges on a daily basis that have to do with taking medication to control his epilepsy and ADHD, to the physical things like not being able to grip a pencil properly or use both hands. He has difficulty with articulating his speech, and so expressing himself and sharing his stories can be a little difficult. He still needs help with certain aspects of dressing and self-care. And so all these things are just parts of being a kid with cerebral palsy, and he does have to deal with a lot of things that most kids don't have to deal with on a daily basis. We adopted Timmy at birth, and so we were just so happy to be able to start a family. But after a couple months, we saw that there were some delays in his development, and so took him to the doctor, and they suggested we start going through therapy. And initially, we were hoping that all the therapies would help him catch up. But it was at that point where we realized that it wasn't going to go away, and that probably began the whole grieving process for us. And it was difficult with all the therapies, though, that we had to do. It probably shielded us from all the emotions that we would feel on a daily basis. And because he was still making progress and he was a fun baby, it wasn't all that bad. Knowing that he wasn't going to be a typical kid who was going to live a typical life was devastating for us, especially when we had tried so hard to adopt a baby to start our family. Also, I think because of the sadness that we were feeling when we learned Timothy had cerebral palsy, we also knew that it was still a good idea for us to get as many resources as we can. And so as we looked for more resources, it started to help us deal with that grief and know that we were doing everything that we could. And so that made things a little better as well. Every time that we started to feel sad, we learned that all we had to do was look at Timmy and have fun with him and believe that we were doing everything that we could to find out what his potential would be. Grieving Timmy's disability wasn't necessarily anything new for Rita and me. Before we had adopted Timmy, I had gone through vision loss, so I became permanently disabled. And so we were familiar with that process of grieving and understanding what life was like with a disability and how that would affect our everyday living situation. And so when Timmy came along and got diagnosed and started to do all the therapies, we kind of went through it as though like, oh, okay, we know what we're doing. This is kind of familiar. Yes, there was a sadness that we had to go through this with our little son, but at least we knew that going through all the therapies and all the medical checks and the doctor's visits and any other procedures were just part of it. That took away from the uncertainty and the scariness of all the things that we had to do. Rita and I still grieve Timmy and his disability, and I think that's just a normal thing because as any child grows, they're put into new situations, and as they grow, so do their peers and so do their friends. And so we're constantly reminded of the new things that other kids can do, but Timmy can't because of his disability. The gap sort of grows, especially in terms of extracurricular activities like sports and dancing and drawing and things like that. But you get over one thing, something comes up, and then you're reminded of the fact that our child has a disability and can't do this new thing, whereas other kids can't. And that is pretty tough. Grieving Timmy's disability, it's such a difficult thing. It's just full of sadness and full of what could have been. But at some point, you kind of get tired of looking at the negative. And so you want to look at the positive, and seeing Timmy grow and progress and doing all the things that he likes to do despite his disability are the things that keep us going. And so we're just so proud of him, and we're looking forward to seeing how he develops and grows in the future. And so I look to the positive, and Rita and I are just so happy and excited to see Timmy grow. His personality certainly brings joy to anyone who he's around. One piece of advice that I do have for any parent who's dealing with the grief of raising a child with a disability is to find your community and grow your community and connect with other people who have children with disabilities. It's never good to feel alone, and it's good to have the ear of people who understand what you're going through and who could commiserate with you, but it can also pump you up. Yes, the disability might not go away. That's the sucky part of it all. But other people have gone through it, and they're out there. They want to help. So just accepting the fact that you need help and there's other people going through it should make it easier to find other people to lean on.